Is it worth investing in LinkedIn Sales Navigator to find leads? Hi everyone, in today's video I'm going to give you my take on Sales Navigator. I will discuss a great alternative to it, and we'll also cover the cases in which it makes sense to use it and when it doesn't make sense. All right, let's get started. So very quickly, for those who you don't know, Sales Navigator is a paid-for feature in LinkedIn. It costs somewhere between, I think it's about £50. And what it does demographic searches. You can find people based on their job titles, company size, industry, and so on. So what is the alternative to Sales Navigator? This is the classic demographic search. You search by these kind of attributes. Is there an alternative? Yes, there is one. It's called behavioral targeting. And let me explain those two things, demographic versus behavioral. With demographic targeting, you are looking for characteristics that people have that kind of make them out as being part of a certain group. Like, for example, 20 to 30-year-old women living in a certain area who are employed as XYZ, right? So this is a demographic search. And this is the old way, the classic way, how advertising used to be done, right? You usually found these people based on these characteristics. That's demographic targeting. Behavioral targeting is different because there you can go by what people are interested in, the topics they're passionate about, and the interests that they pursue. And this is obviously something that Facebook has mastered really, really well, behavioral targeting, because it knows so much about us, the things that we like, the things that we are following, that they can really pinpoint exactly well that this is a person who's very much into progressive politics, who also likes motorcycling and baking cakes at home, right? So this is like very, very narrow, and you can make about these things people then tend to be really much more passionate about, and you can start conversations much more easily. That's why behavioral targeting is such a much more powerful way to do that. However, LinkedIn doesn't offer behavioral targeting like it does demographic targeting. So this is where we find a certain conundrum here, because the problem with demographic targeting, Sales Navigator, is twofold. First of all, people who are frequent targets on Sales Navigator have been overrun by invitations, and they get way too much spam. It's really difficult to get through to them. For example, if you look at HR people in small to mid-sized companies, they have so many inbound requests that it's impossible to get through to them. So that's problem number one. Problem number two is that you don't have a context to start the conversation. When you have someone only based on their job titles, how can you start a conversation? Hey there, I see you are also an HR director in a mid-sized company. Awesome. It would be great to connect. It doesn't really work. And that is a problem that you run into when you use Sales Navigator. It's a lack of context and hard to start a conversation. Just to give you a small illustration, my own connection invite acceptance rate, so when you send people a connection request, is about 10% when I'm on Sales Navigator and I don't personalize my approach message. However, with behavioral targeting, my accept rate is 70%. And this, I've been running this over the last few weeks, and that is a consistent accept rate that I'm getting. So with behavioral, you have a much better way of starting the conversation. So in which cases should you use Sales Navigator? Well, it really depends on your business. If you are selling to an extremely niche audience and you are using a search on Sales Navigator that is very difficult to replicate, or that it is very unlikely that other people will have replicated it, in this case, it makes sense to use Sales Navigator because these people tend to have been targeted less frequently. So for example, if you're targeting utility managers who have a Six Sigma certification and they are working for large companies in the wholesale sector, okay, that is such a narrow search. Is maybe going to be a few thousand people, if at all, in the world that fit this target. That's okay. In this case, you should use Sales Navigator. However, if you, like me, have a very wide target market, like I help pretty much anyone whose clients are on LinkedIn and who you can sell a service or product for $2,000 or more, that's my entire target market, then Sales Navigator is much less effective because I can, for example, search for solopreneurs on LinkedIn. Very frequently targeted group. I don't really have a good way to start a conversation there. Good. So that was the difference. This is how you now know whether you can use Sales Navigator or not. And if you really have these types of narrow searches, I really believe that the investment is worth it and you should consider it. Finally, how can you do behavioral targeting? Because I mentioned that LinkedIn doesn't offer that, but it doesn't offer it in a systematic way like Facebook offers it. Facebook, of course, they have a huge ad manager in the back and you can target people based on their interest. You cannot do that on LinkedIn. Or if you can do that, maybe via ads, but nobody I know has ever made any ROI on LinkedIn ads, so you can completely forget about LinkedIn ads. But in terms of organic outreach, without paying, there is a way how you can do behavioral targeting yourself. And that is, number one, search for content. Let's say you're selling air conditioning systems to large companies, search for that kind of a topic, air conditioning systems and so on. And then you just click on content. Below the search box, this row of people, companies, content show up. You click on content. You see what people are talking about, and then you can engage them in a conversation. Second way to do behavioral targeting, follow influencers in your space. If it's air conditioning systems, I don't know much about that, but if there's influencers in that area, follow them and see who is commenting and liking on their posts, and then start a conversation with those people. They are very likely to be in your target market. If you want to learn more about behavioral targeting and how you can start conversations with complete strangers and make them your clients, then join me next Tuesday, the 18th of August. We're going to be having a training on the topic, how to double your LinkedIn lead flow over the summer, despite the C word virus. We will cover all of those things and much more. So join me there. The link is in the description or in the first comment. It was been great talking to you, and I remain committed to your success.